A young mother's existence had devolved into an endless barrage of criticism and reproach. Her mother-in-law had moved in, dictating her every action from morning till night. "You're holding the baby wrong, feeding him wrong, living your life wrong." All the while, she offered no assistance, content to lounge on the sofa. But patience has its limits. One day, the daughter-in-law decided it was time to act. "Greetings, dear listeners. I am delighted to welcome you to my channel. I present to you a new and engaging story. Enjoy listening." The mother-in-law moved in without any prior arrangement, simply ringing the doorbell at 7 in the morning with 2 suitcases, announcing that helping the young couple was her sacred duty. Zlata opened the door with her 4-month-old Misha, still sleepy, in her arms, not yet comprehending that her life had just transformed into a nightmare. Olga Makarevna entered the apartment like a military tank on parade, confident and with a clang. She kicked off her shoes right at the threshold and headed directly to the kitchen. "Will you offer your mother-in-law some tea, or have you entirely forgotten decency?" Zlata silently put the kettle on. Misha whimpered. It was time to feed him. She went into the room, settled into an armchair, and started nursing. Olga Makarevna bustled in right behind her, teacup in hand. She plopped onto the sofa and immediately began. "You're holding the baby incorrectly. His head needs to be higher. He'll choke like that." Zlata gritted her teeth. Misha nursed with little snuffles. Everything was fine, but her mother-in-law was already in full swing. "And besides, you're overfeeding him. See how chubby he is? That's unhealthy fat. You should feed him on a schedule, every 3 hours, not at his first whimper." "The pediatrician said to feed him on demand," Zlata replied quietly. "Pediatricians," Olga Makarevna scoffed. "They're young. They don't understand anything. I raised 3 children, and they're all healthy. One of them is your precious Oleg, who at 30 still dries his socks on the radiator." Zlata thought, but remained silent. Her husband arrived home from work that evening, and the mother-in-law immediately switched her attention to him. "Oleg, my son, you've lost so much weight. She doesn't feed you at all. I'll make you some cutlets now, real ones, homemade." Oleg gave his wife a sheepish smile and shrugged. Olga Makarevna was already clattering pots and pans in the kitchen. By 10 at night, the apartment was permeated with the smell of fried onions. A mountain of dishes loomed in the sink, and the mother-in-law, pleased with herself, settled on the sofa with the remote. "You're not going to bed?" Zlata asked cautiously. "And where am I supposed to sleep?" Olga Makarevna glanced at her. "On the floor, perhaps. We assumed you'd be staying at a hotel." "A hotel?" The mother-in-law threw up her hands. "Oleg, do you hear this? Your wife is kicking her own mother out to a hotel." Oleg hesitated. "Zlata, but she's not staying long. Let's give her the sofa." Not long. Stretched into a week, then 2. Olga Makarevna established herself in the living room like a ruler in an occupied city. She didn't prepare breakfast. That, according to her, was the hostess's responsibility. She didn't wash dishes. And she had heart problems, blood pressure, her age. Instead, she dispensed advice around the clock. "You're swaddling him wrong, bathing him wrong, holding the bottle wrong, washing clothes wrong, choosing the wrong diapers. You buy those expensive ones, and what's the point? My children grew up without them at all." Zlata woke up at 6 in the morning to Misha's cries. She fed him, changed his diaper, and put him back to sleep. By 7, she crawled into the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Oleg couldn't leave for work without a hot meal. By 8, her husband was gone, and the mother-in-law was just getting up, demanding coffee. "Make me some proper coffee in a Turkish pot, not this instant sludge," she'd say, settling at the table, "and an omelet with tomato for me." Zlata cooked, served, and cleaned up. So the mother-in-law moved to the sofa and turned on the television. Until lunch, she lounged, flipping through her phone and commenting on programs. By lunch, she demanded soup. "A real chicken soup, not this instant noodle stuff you're poisoning my son with." Zlata made soup, then washed the floors. The mother-in-law complained about dust on the floor, saying it was harmful to the baby. Then she did laundry, hung it out, and ironed. Misha slept in short bursts, waking every half hour. Zlata carried him, rocked him, sang lullabies, and Olga Makarevna, from the sofa, declared, "You're spoiling him, raising him incorrectly. You should put him in his crib and not go to him. Let him cry, it'll strengthen his lungs." "I can't listen to him cry," Zlata said softly. "That's why you'll end up with a mama's boy just like Oleg." "Yes, thanks for the confirmation," Zlata thought, rocking her son. In the evenings, Oleg came home tired, ate dinner, and got lost in his phone. The mother-in-law bombarded him with questions about work, salary, and plans. Zlata sat in the bedroom, listening to Olga Makarevna lecture about how wives were more submissive in their time and kept the house in order. One evening, Zlata couldn't take it anymore. "Oleg, your mother has been here for 3 weeks now. When is she leaving?" "Zlata, but she's helping." "How is she helping? She lies on the sofa all day. She's giving you advice, passing on her experience." "I don't need her advice. I need my apartment back." Oleg frowned. "She's my mother. Don't be rude to her." "I'm not being rude. I just want her to leave." "She won't leave until I say so." Zlata fell silent. Then Oleg returned to his phone. The conversation was over. The next morning, the mother-in-law was in an especially cheerful mood. "You know, Zlatochka, I was thinking, perhaps I should move in with you permanently. It's lonely in my apartment alone, and my grandson is growing, and my help is needed." Zlata's insides twisted. "We didn't discuss this." "What's there to discuss? Oleg doesn't mind. Right, son?" Oleg, caught off guard, mumbled something incoherent and fled to work. Zlata remained in the kitchen, feeling the apartment walls closing in on her. By the middle of the 4th week, she had stopped sleeping. Misha woke up at night, and during the day, her mother-in-law demanded attention. In the evenings, she had to feign gratitude. Zlata moved like a robot, cooking, washing, ironing, feeding. Olga Makarevna from the sofa commanded, "Yo, you're cutting the bread wrong, folding the laundry wrong, talking to the baby wrong. You're babbling too much. You're living your life all wrong, Zlatochka. But don't worry, I'll teach you." One morning, Zlata stood at the stove, stirring porridge for her mother-in-law. Misha was sleeping in his stroller on the balcony. Olga Makarevna lounged on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. "You're cooking the porridge wrong," she said without looking up. "It's too thin. I like it thicker." Zlata remained silent, stirring. Something inside her clicked, softly, like a switch. "And besides, Zlatochka, I was thinking," her mother-in-law continued, "perhaps it's time for you to go back to work. You're at home on maternity leave. You've gotten too relaxed. Oleg earns the money all by himself, and I'll look after Mishenka." "He's 4 months old," Zlata replied in a level voice. "So what? My children were in nurseries at 3 months and were fine. They grew up. Right, Oleg?" Oleg chewed his sandwich silently, looking out the window. "I'll think about it," Zlata said and poured the porridge onto a plate. The mother-in-law ate, leaving her plate on the table, and returned to the sofa. Zlata cleared the dishes, wiped the table, and swept the floor. Olga Makarevna turned on a TV series at full volume. "You're holding the mop wrong," she said, not tearing her eyes from the screen. "You'll hurt your back." Zlata placed the mop in the corner and went out onto the balcony. Misha was sleeping soundly. She looked at him, tiny, defenseless, her only ally in this house, and realized that if she didn't change something, she would go mad. In the evening, though, when Oleg came home from work, she tried again. "Oleg, we need to talk." "Zlata, I'm tired. It's important. Your mother, she's been here for a month. It's hard for me." "Hard." He frowned. "She's helping you." "She's not helping. She lies on the sofa and orders me around. Don't yell, Mama will hear. Let her hear. Let her know that I can't go on like this anymore." Oleg stood up, grabbed his jacket. "I'm going for a walk. We'll talk when you've calmed down." He left. Zlata remained standing in the middle of the room, feeling something cold and hard ignite within her. The next day, the mother-in-law woke up in a particularly foul mood. "You brewed my tea wrong. It's too strong. My heart is pounding from it. Do you want to kill me?" Zlata silently poured out the tea and brewed a new one. "And you put his diapers on wrong. See? They're crooked. He'll get chafed everywhere." Zlata removed the diapers and put on new ones. "You're just not handling him correctly at all. Now, if I were in your place, what would you do in my place?" Zlata turned to her mother-in-law. Her voice was quiet, but something sharp rang within it. "Well," Olga Makarevna hesitated for a second, then continued, "I would pay more attention to my husband, my family, and keeping the house in order. And you only think about yourself." "About myself?" Zlata scoffed. "I get up at 6 in the morning, go to bed at midnight, and all day in between, I'm spinning like a hamster on a wheel. That's thinking about myself." "Don't raise your voice at me. I'm older than you." "Then behave according to your age. Help out, don't just lie on the sofa." The mother-in-law jumped up indignantly. You, how dare you, Oleg? Oleg, do you hear how she's talking to me?" But Oleg wasn't there. He had already left for work. Olga Makarevna flopped back onto the sofa with a thud. "You know what, Missy? You'll remember this. I'll tell Oleg everything, and he'll decide who's in charge here." Zlata said nothing. She picked up Misha and went into the bedroom. That evening, her husband returned, looking grim. The mother-in-law pounced on him with complaints about how Zlata had insulted her, how rude she had been, how disrespectful. Oleg listened, sighed, and knocked on the bedroom door. Zlata apologized to Mom. For what? For being rude to her. "I won't apologize. I didn't say anything of the sort." "Zlata, she's in tears." "Oh, you upset her." "And who will upset me? Who cares about me being at my breaking point?" Oleg rubbed his face with his hands. "What do you want from me? To kick out my own mother?" "I want you to take my side just once, just one time." He looked at her for a long moment. "You're selfish," he said quietly, and left. That night, Zlata couldn't sleep. She lay looking at the ceiling, thinking about how everything had gone downhill after Misha's birth, how Oleg had become a stranger, how she herself had dissolved into this house, becoming a servant to her mother-in-law and a shadow to her husband. In the morning, she got up with a clear head. The plan had formed itself. Zlata waited until Oleg left for work, fed Misha, and put him to sleep. Her mother-in-law, as usual, was lounging on the sofa, engrossed in her phone. "Olga Makarevna," Zlata called, "could you please go and get some bread? We've run out." "Go yourself," the mother-in-law grumbled. "I have the baby. It's inconvenient for me." "Is it convenient for me, do you think? My legs hurt." "The store is next door. 5 minutes." Olga Makarevna snorted irritably, but got up, pulled on her coat, and slipped on her slippers. "Just be quick," Zlata said, "or Misha will wake up and I'll have to feed him." The mother-in-law slammed the door. Zlata waited 10 seconds, then dashed to the window. Olga Makarevna was shuffling towards the store. Zlata sprang into action, pulled her mother-in-law's 2 suitcases out of the closet, threw them into the hallway, grabbed her phone, and searched online for a lock replacement company. The operator answered on the 3rd ring. "I need to change a lock urgently. Very urgently, within the hour. I'll pay extra." "Address?" She dictated it. The locksmith promised to arrive in 20 minutes. Zlata scrambled around the apartment, packing her mother-in-law's belongings. A robe, slippers, a toiletry bag, medications. Everything flew into the suitcases. Her heart pounded, her hands trembled. Misha woke up and started crying. She scooped him up, held him close. "Bear with me, my sunshine, just a little longer." A knock at the door. The locksmith, a man about 50 with a worn toolbox. "Need to change the lock?" "Yes, quickly, please." "Why so urgent?" "I'm kicking out my mother-in-law," Zlata blurted out. The locksmith whistled and grinned. "Got it. Happens. I'll do it in 15 minutes." He got to work. Zlata stood by the window, holding Misha and watching for her mother-in-law. Yeah, she was in line at the store. You could see through the window. The locksmith worked with concentration, muttering curses under his breath. He pried out the old lock, installed a new one, tested it. Done. 4 keys. Zlata paid, practically pushed him out the door, placed the suitcases on the landing, closed the door with the new lock, and leaned against the frame, catching her breath. It was done. She returned to the window. Her mother-in-law was already walking back with a loaf of bread in her hand, grumbling indignantly to herself. 3 minutes passed. Then the doorbell rang, then a banging, then a crash. "Open! Open immediately!" Zlata walked to the door, leaned her forehead against it, and smiled. "You're holding the baby wrong, feeding him wrong, living your life wrong," she said loudly, clearly. "I learned." Oh, without getting up from the sofa. "And I learned how to change locks correctly." Silence, then a hysterical wail. "What have you done? Open this instant. Your things are in the hallway. Goodbye, Olga Makarevna." You, I'll call Oleg. He'll sort you out." "Call him." Zlata moved away from the door, sat on the sofa, the very one her mother-in-law had occupied for a month. Misha lay in her arms, looking with big eyes. She kissed the top of his head. Her mother-in-law raged in the hallway for another 10 minutes, then fell silent. Presumably, she was calling Oleg. Zlata's phone rang 5 minutes later. "What are you doing?" Oleg yelled. "Open the door for your mother immediately." "No. How so? No. Just like that, I changed the locks. Your mother doesn't live here anymore." "Are you crazy? I'm coming over right now. And what?" "You'll break it down. Call the police." "Oleg, this is my apartment too. I'm registered here. I have the right to decide who lives here. She's my mother, and I'm your wife. But that doesn't seem to concern you." "Zlata, I'm telling you one last time. And I'm telling you one last time. Either it's this way or I'm moving out with our son and filing for divorce. Choose." She hung up. Her hands trembled. Inside, a hurricane of fear, anger, and wild delight raged. The phone was silent for an hour. Then a message from Oleg arrived. "We'll talk this evening." Zlata exhaled. She put Misha to bed, sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea. The silence in the apartment rang like crystal. Oleg came home late that evening. His face was grim, his movements sharp. Zlata sat in an armchair with Misha in her arms. "We need to talk," he said. "Oh, why did you do it?" "Because otherwise I would have gone mad. She's my mother, Zlata, my own mother." "And who am I?" He clenched his jaw. "You could have talked to her civilly." "I tried. You didn't listen because you exaggerate everything. She just wanted to help." "Oleg?" Zlata stood up, walked over to him. "Listen to me for once. Your mother spent a whole month lying on the sofa and bossing me around. She didn't do anything around the house. She just criticized. I got up at 6 in the morning and collapsed at midnight, exhausted. And you didn't even notice. I work and I work. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm your damn housekeeper, and your mother even wanted to move in permanently." He remained silent. "If you want her to live here," Zlata continued, "then live with her yourself, without me and Misha." He looked at her for a long time, then lowered his gaze. "All right, she won't live here, not at all." Zlata exhaled. "But you'll apologize to her," he added. "No, Oleg, no. I will not apologize for defending my family." He wanted to say something but remained silent, turned, and went into the bedroom. Olga Makarevna left for her own place that very evening. Oleg drove her there by taxi, silently loading the suitcases. He returned late, lay down on the edge of the bed, and turned away. For several days, a tense silence prevailed in the apartment. Oleg remained silent. Zlata didn't insist on conversations. They existed in parallel. He went to work. She took care of Misha. But gradually, the tension eased. Zlata could breathe freely again. The apartment was her fortress, not a battlefield. She cooked when she wanted. He rested when needed. No one commented on her every step. Oleg thawed out after a week. He He was the first to start talking about everyday trifles. Then he picked up Misha, held him for a long time, and looked out the window. "Mom is offended," he said one evening. "I know. She says you humiliated her." "And what do you think?" He was silent. "I think I should have intervened sooner." Zlata looked at him. For the first time in a month, she truly looked at him. "Thank you." Her mother-in-law remained offended for another 3 months, didn't call or write. Oleg visited her himself. Then she thawed out, sent Misha a gift for his half-birthday, then called and coldly inquired about her grandson's health. 6 months later, she came to visit for one day by invitation, sat at the table, ate a pie that Zlata had baked, and said, "It turned out not bad, although the dough could have been rolled thinner." Zlata smiled. "Thank you for the advice, Olga Makarevna." The mother-in-law wiped her mouth with a napkin and stood up. "All right, I must be going. Next time I'll visit when you invite me." She left, and Zlata understood the boundary had been established forever. The anniversary of that day fell on a rainy November evening. Zlata stood by the window with a cup of coffee. Misha crawled on the floor, chasing a ball and squealing with joy. Oleg was reading on the sofa. Her phone vibrated, a message from a friend. "How are things?" Zlata typed a reply. "Everything is good. I finally learned how to live correctly." Misha got tired and reached out to her. She picked him up and he buried his face in her neck, snuffling and smelling of milk. It was getting dark outside. And the light was on in the apartment. Oleg put down his book and looked at them. "Would you like some tea?" he asked. "Yes." He stood up and went to the kitchen. Zlata held Misha tighter. A normal evening, quiet. Their own. Sometimes doing things correctly just means changing the locks at the right time.